Chapter 19, Employment at Will and Discharge. This is important in healthcare because different facilities have different expectations and different probation periods, etc. Learning objectives are here on the PowerPoint and on page 371. Employment at will. It is a doctrine. Employment at, is at will of an employer and employee. So it's an overview. I'm sorry, this chapter is going to provide an overview of the employment process in the healthcare setting. I had that highlighted. Um, and an employment doctrine is, according to this book, is viable in all but one state. Of course, now this was published in what year? 2019? No, 2021. So this book is rather new, but I'd be curious to know which state that is. For healthcare workers, an unexpected termination may mean a significant setback in a career progression, financial hardship, and loss of self esteem. I think that would be for any profession, but that's cool, especially healthcare workers, I guess. So, employment with an employment at will contract, if you will, employment can be terminated at any time for any reason or no reason, unless a contract is in place specifying terms and duration. I can speak from my own healthcare employment, and I did sign a doctrine, if you will, and I agreed to a 90-day probation period. And then beyond that, they have, if there's an issue that arises, it depends on the issue. But if it's something, let's just say absences, then they have to give me a verbal warning, then a written warning, then a written warning and a suspension, so like a level 3, and then I'm terminated. So there's a couple of steps to it, but it's all in my employment contract and it stays there. I mean, I haven't had to sign a new one. It's 20, almost 25 years old, but it was very explicit when I was first hired on at the hospital what the expectations were. So this is an interesting case that the book starts with. Let me back up to page 372. Employment at will, I highlighted where the employer or employee may terminate the employment for any reason, for no reason. Okay, so the PowerPoint said the same thing. So read about what happened at Duke Hospital. Historically, termination for any reason has been widely accepted in healthcare. Growing trend restrict application of the at-will rule, fairly balancing rights of employees and the needs of the organization. So that's the beautiful thing about the employment at will doctrine is it's taking care of the employee, but it's also taking care of the healthcare facilities needs too. I mean, if the employee is not happy to work there, they need to move on. And if the employee is not in line with the healthcare facilities visions, missions, overall social culture, then they need to go. So it's great to have it for both. Employment at will is continued, so very different as far as the different states. North New York compared to California. That was, I read that in the chapter also. A civilized state. So this is a part of that Duke Hospital suit. Policy, public policy issues on page 373. Excuse me. Public policy originates with legislative enactments. Um, that prohibit, for example, the discharge of an employee on the basis of disability, age, race, color, religion, sex, national orientation, pregnancy, union membership, and or filing of safety violation complaints. So that is a great start to this topic. Uh, I read about the Price is Right employee that she was awarded a lot of money for that, and then the book goes on to give great examples of how healthcare facility people, nurses, and etc., healthcare facility employees have been discharged for various reasons, and they've won their cases when they took it to court. And then, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me get past this slide. So this is what we were talking. I just read that out loud to you. Reporting whistleblowing. So on the page of 374, a whistleblower is a person who reports corruption, criminal, and unethical business practices in the workplace to the appropriate government authorities. I've read a lot about that, heard a lot about that as far as politics go. I've actually never personally experienced that as far as a healthcare facility, but I've been very lucky to have worked in a world-class healthcare facility, so no huge issues there. Um, the nurse dismissed against public policy on page 374. I highlighted the last sentence. The hospital violated both her rights and responsibilities of the nurse. So that was the paving her way to heaven. section. Retaliation discharge is the next in the book. Let's see where it takes us here. Yes, so the PowerPoint is matching the book. That's a good thing. So retaliation or retaliatory discharge is a term used when an employer terminates an employee for reasons other than work performance based causes. That can be, I mean, it can be against the employee because they filed um, such as reporting an employer for illegal conduct, filing a discrimination charge, opposing unlawful activity. So the employer would then retaliate against the healthcare worker. And the book goes on to give great examples of that and how that's been resolved and awarded. There's examples. Fairness is the ultimate test, page 376. Termination is then discussed on page 377. So, a decision to terminate an employee should be reviewed by members of management who are familiar with the issues. Um, Oral written counseling with suspension, and written counseling with termination are the textbook responses. And that's exactly what my contract included 25 years, almost 25 years ago. So that's normal. That's textbook. That's basic. Um, yeah, that's just how it should be across all employers, but especially in healthcare. So, employment disclaimers is mentioned on page 377. All of these are throughout the book, 378. Termination, financial necessity, hostile, insubordinate behavior. This is a big one in hospitals. You hear this a lot, and I'm sure other healthcare facilities. So be sure and read up on that one. You have to follow chain of command in a professional setting, especially in healthcare. Defending wrongful termination case. Okay, I'll let you read that. Constructive discharge. That's on page 380. Termination questions to ask. So this is if if you're having to make that decision, you want to cover all your bases and make sure you are doing the right thing. And again, get someone's assistance with this because you don't want to be wrong in terminating somebody. So to avoid a lot of termination issues, let's practice effective hiring. And the book does great going into how to be a more productive or effective hire of employees. Be familiar with state laws, the interview practices. Interviews, you can't ask somebody how old they are. You can't ask them if they plan on getting pregnant or if they plan on moving. Like those type of laws is what I'm referring to. Because you want to find a good fit. You spend a lot of time and money onboarding a new employee in a healthcare facility. You really do want to keep them. You really don't want to hire somebody with the intention of getting rid of them in 30 days and having to start all over. So waste of resources, time, and money. Okay, there's only two more slides, discussion questions. That's it for this chapter. Please let me know if you have any questions.